Hey, what's going on, you guys? Mr. Woody 1235 here yet again. Wanted to talk to you guys about a little subject that a few of you guys might be interested in. Um, this is some music genres and some bands that not really into. Some artists that I don't really like, some music genres that I'm not really into, can't see the appeal of, can't really find a way to get into them. So yeah, I just thought this might be a little bit fun. First of all, right off the bat, I need to tell you guys that I absolutely hate the genre hardcore, heavy metal, screamo. It's not music. It's just I understand like what's happening in this genre of music. People write down these really emotional lyrics, these really angry, fucking mad lyrics, and it really helps get the emotions out when you're able to scream them that loudly. Um, it's kind of like a powerful thing, and I'm sure that's why people get into this music so much, is because it's just a way to kind of, just fucking get your emotions out in a more violent type of way. And that's good for some people, but to me, it doesn't do that. It just sounds like noise. Um, it just, it's just terrible. It's horrible, horrible music. I cannot get into any form of screamo or hardcore whatsoever. The hardest you're ever going to hear screams that I enjoy, you know, bands like Linkin Park maybe and Queens of the Stone Age, stuff that doesn't require too much of that stuff. Like, I could never listen to a whole album of this shit. I ended up going to see Escape the Fate in concert before, and while there's some elements of that in their music, I really enjoyed their self-titled album. I had to sit through a band called, what the hell were they called? Something White. I forget what they were, but they were a hardcore screamo band, and they played that stuff for like an hour non-stop. And it was just so hard to sit through that bullshit. I just don't understand, me personally, I don't get those raw emotions out when listening to that. It just sounds like total shit. I fucking hate hardcore, heavy metal, fucking all that bullshit. I can't stand it. I know quite a few people have been wanting me to talk about some metal albums and stuff like that. I enjoy Metallica's Black album, but I'm not a huge Metallica fan. I just, I don't know. I cannot get into this genre of music. You guys can tell this type of stuff I like. I'm really into more anthemic stuff, really heavy instrumentation, albums that aren't really consistent in style. I like it when a certain song can be like a rock song for 1 minute, then you got maybe a country twangy song the next minute. Next minute maybe you got something a little bit more pop oriented, maybe something a little bit more in the hip hop category. If an artist can create an album that sounds something like that, then I'm most likely going to be on board with it, because it makes an album sound interesting, diverse. I think it shows creativity within the artist itself, and that makes the album just way more interesting and enjoyable. I've never really been able to understand why some people don't really like that. A lot of people really like albums to stay consistent. I mean, like, they want straight, like, rock, period, like nothing else. I guess that's fine. I mean, like, I know sometimes people want a certain mood to be conveyed, and you can't really do that with albums that have like that type of diversity to them. It's just something that I'm personally into. That's why I love Jack White's Lazaretto so much. Temporary Ground is one of the best songs on that album, just for the simple fact that it is a straight up country twang song. Um, let's see, same thing with Panic at the Disco. Their album Pretty Odd. That's why that album is one of my favorites from them, is because I love just the incredible musical style that's going on in that thing. I just think it's so enjoyable and so much fun. I'm also not a huge fan of that whole boy band alternative type music. I mean, like, that type of music that all sounds the same completely. Bands like All Time Low or Mayday Parade. I really enjoyed sections of Don't Panic from All Time Low. I thought that album was okay, but like, I just think you're fine listening to one of their albums. Just like getting one album from those type of bands is all you need in my opinion, because they're all the fucking same. They all sound the same. Like 5 Seconds of Summer, that's another example. It's just a fucking, One Direction with guitars. Yeah, maybe 5 Seconds of Summer might have wrote some of their own shit, but it's still just fucking like the next Pretty Face. Such bullshit, man. Just a big corporate fucking lie. One of the bands that I think deserves some praise in this category is Fall Out Boy, because at least the vocals don't sound exactly the same. And I'm not the biggest fan of Fall Out Boy either. I really enjoyed the album Infinity on High, but I mean, that's about as much love as I can give to Fall Out Boy, honestly. Their other singles are great too. I'm talking about in an album context.
Conversations are lying. Pull out a match to see how long it lasts. 5 minutes to midnight. Coming home with me tonight.
It just all kind of sounds the same, and I just don't really understand the appeal of these bands. It gets a little annoying to me. I just not really a huge fan of those alternative boy band type things. Another thing I can't really stand is that like hardcore gangster rap. I can't really get into that shit either. Or those really obnoxious fucking rappers like a Lil Wayne or some shit. Yeah! Like I said in a few videos before, the only reason that I'm such a big fan of Kanye West is because of the production on his album sounds different from album to album, each with a different theme, especially in his later work. I also really enjoy the old style rap where things actually mattered. Like Public Enemy, for example, that rap group actually kind of stood for something. Fight the power, that's what that was about. This shit about cars and women and money and weed and all this bullshit that people are into nowadays, I just cannot get on board with it. I will admit though, I'm actually more of a fan of rap now than I was about 2 or 3 years ago. I'm actually really getting into some things now. Another genre that I wasn't too hot on about 2 or 3 years ago was country, but after listening to really old country records, I have found a new appreciation for country music. Some of that shit is just so good. I mean, like, my favorite definitely has to be Hank Williams. Another one would be Hank Snow, your Conway Twitty, your Loretta Lynn. These country artists just had some really good lyrics, some really simple song structures, but it just has this old-timey feel to it that is just addicting to me, personally. I really enjoy Songs Your Daddy Taught Us by the Everly Brothers. Billy Joe and Nora Jones' album still gets played for me from time to time. Just the instrumentation that goes into country music is just some sounds that I can really get behind, violin, acoustic guitar, slide guitar. I'm just really into that now, more than I was just a few years ago. The only thing left that I really can't get into genre-wise of music, I can't really get into lowercase and drone. Lowercase music, I feel like it's just so minimal that almost no music is there, and I get really impatient with it. Drone music is the same way except in reverse. I just hate that whole one note holding out bullshit. I can't really stand that. Trust me, I've tried to get into Godspeed You Black Emperor, but I just can't for reasons that it just takes so long for things to build and to come to fruition, and it just gets really annoying and boring to me. Honestly though, after that, I can pretty much listen to anything else after that. R&B, electronic, ambient, rock, emo, pop, R&B, funk. I mean, I'm into all of that shit. I mean, I might not love every single album that I hear in these categories of music, but I'll at least give it a try. Hell, a coworker at work gave me an Al Green CD. I mean, hell, I love that shit. To move on to some bands that I'm not really into and I find to be a little bit overrated, U2, for one. I've always thought that U2 were a bit overrated. I mean, they're like one of the biggest rock bands in the world, and I just don't really understand their appeal. Sure, some of the music can be really emotional, and some of the choruses and the verses can be written out really, really well, but I just don't feel like there's that much of a diversity going on in U2. And I don't know, I haven't heard all of U2 records. They've been around for fucking ever, but from what I've heard, I just don't care for them that much. I feel like Blink-182 is a tiny bit overrated. Alternative bands, like I mentioned before, pretty much can't get into any of that stuff. I had a Change of Pace album at one point, and I really liked that back in the day. That's about as close as you got me into that style of music that I was talking about before. I really enjoyed Prepare the Masses. It was like mixing up hard guitar with a few like chorus and background vocals that I didn't really find in other albums of that style back in those days, so really enjoyed that record. Prepare the Masses by Change of Pace. Check that one out, it's really cool. I can get into some experimental music, it just has to have a consistent flow and a beat. Nurse the Wound is definitely one that I would check out. And along with like songs like Revolution 9 by the Beatles, I mean, that stuff is okay with me. I just can't take too much of it, you know? I'm sure there's more things that I could mention right here. They're just not coming to my mind right now. So tell me guys, what's some bands or some genres of music that you can't really find yourself getting into? I would love to hear it, and please go easy on the dislikes. I know that I'm suggesting myself to this so much because I know how opinionated some of you guys are. But, you know, I just feel like this would be a fun video to make, and here I am. Mr. Money 1 2 3 5. I'll see you guys later.